Well, it's nap time here on the Talk of the Tour podcast. Looking forward to this one as we welcome in the champion from the Mexico Open at Vidanta, Jake Knapp, competing in this week's John Deere Classic out there in the Quad Cities. Jake, it's good to see you. I appreciate the time. How's it going out there at the JDC?
It's going pretty good. Got over yesterday and did some putting, caddy walked 9 holes, and then getting ready to go out and play some golf this afternoon and see what it's all about.
Pretty cool place, isn't it? A little small market fabric of the PGA Tour through the years.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously with me being in college and then Jordan winning here when he did and the way he did. And yeah, this event's just always kind of had some cool memories in terms of watching it on TV. So I'm excited to finally be here and play it.
So how has life changed for you since winning? Or maybe it hasn't.
Yeah. A little more attention, obviously. So that's different. But my life's somewhat of the same. I mean, still live in the same place and have the same friends and family and have the same job. So it's just been a bit busier, I think, just trying to adjust to the new schedule and just everything kind of going on. It's kind of nice now going to tournaments and people actually know who I am rather than asking what my name is. So for the most part, showing up, golfing every day. So keeping it pretty simple.
Well, that does come at a price for some people, right? Because you have sacrificed whatever anonymity you may have had in your life prior to that. You cool with all that?
Yeah, I think it takes a little adjusting for, the first few months. Maybe you go to a grocery store and you get recognized, or you just go anywhere and you feel like, I don't think the hair does me any favors and whatnot too. So stick out like a sore thumb sometimes, but no, I don't mind it. I think especially, at tournaments, if you can, sign an autograph or take a picture of somebody and, take 30 seconds and make somebody else's day, it's the least we can do.
So many doors open up when you win on the PGA Tour. It's a life-changing moment for a player. And sometimes, although this sounds counterintuitive, guys win and they decide, all right, I'm going to change something, right? In an effort to get even better, and end up backtracking a little bit. How do you sort of decipher, Jake, between all the things that are available to you as a winner? What do you decide to take? What do you refrain from taking? And who helps you arrive at those decisions?
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's where, kind of my team comes in handy. I've had like the same group around me for a long time. John Ortega has been, kind of my life mental golf coach for my entire life. And then Dana helps me with some swing stuff when I need it. And, I think talking with them about, what areas I believe I need to get better at. And maybe what areas, even when you do win, I'm sure it's not perfect from start to finish. So trying to find out like, okay, what kind of was starting to crack under pressure and how can we make that better? And, for me, I'm trying to change as little as I can now. I leave most of that stuff to the off season and then, fully commit to something pretty much for the entire season and then kind of go year by year. But for me, I think just trying to build overall consistency. And I think, sure, there's some things you can kind of change in order to get there, but at the same time, it's also, you look at the PGA Tour, you look at some of the swings out here, and there's some interesting moves that work really, really well. And I think if you just own what you do, it's going to work out for you.
Well, yours is an action that a lot of people are envious of since they've seen it under the pump there in Mexico. Clubhead speed of 125 miles per hour plus. You may not be able to answer this question. You've probably been asked it a lot, Jake. You may be more of a field player than a technical guy. How do you generate all that clubhead speed and make it seem so lacking in energy and so effortless?
I think first part of it was having an older brother that was a foot taller than me my entire life and hit it a mile. So I think that definitely helped. I was always somebody who was super undersized for my age and didn't hit it anywhere and always wanted to keep up with him and all of his friends. So just kind of taught myself how to hit it far. I'd shut my stance and had a really, really strong grip and just hit big rope hook draws just to try to get it out there as far as I can. And probably in like sophomore, junior in high school, I grew like 6, 8 inches and went from being 5'3" to 5'9", 5'10", and then all of a sudden just started hitting it far in general. And for me, the goal has always been to, college, I was probably at my fastest in terms of, if you asked me to swing hard, I would probably swing slower because I didn't know how to. I could just always swing 100%. So the goal for me has always just been to try to swing at the same speed, at that quick speed, but with less effort. So for me, I do that kind of taking care of my body, getting into the gym and making sure I take care of it that way. And, for me, I don't feel like I have to work that hard to get it around 126 or 27 these days.
You mentioned your brother. I know you guys are very close. You kind of grew up in the game when you were kids, and it was not a country club background there in Costa Mesa, California. Tell me about the 36-hole Muni that you guys cut your teeth on.
Yeah, yeah. We call it Coastie National. Right across, right across the street from where we grew up. It's just 36 holes. You have Los Lagos, which is probably right around 6,800 yards or so, par 72, and then you have Mesa Linda. That's probably like 6,400 par 70. Both have kind of like their own unique style. Mesa Linda's like got more drivable par fours and short holes. Obviously, you want to go low, and then Los Lagos has some better holes, but yeah, it's just as public as you can get. I mean, wear basketball shorts and a t-shirt, no dress code, no nothing like that. And grew up kind of riding my bike over there as a kid, or just walking across the street. So that's where Johnny Orr, coach, still is to this day. And I know my brother takes over his little 1.5-year-old over there to putt every once in a while. So it's always had a special place in our heart.
That's so cool. Are you a big deal when you go back there now?
I haven't been back in a while now. I mean, I probably haven't been back since we usually go, back around Christmas and whatnot. And then now that I live in Scottsdale, I'm going to try to make some more trips out there. But, I still talk to Kyle and Sean and Brad and all the guys who still work in the pro shop. They're still my number one fans. And, that's what I mean when my family and friends have stayed the same. Those are the guys that I still talk to and still support me each day.
There's an unglamorous life to professional golf that a lot of people who sit on their couch and watch the leaders come down the stretch on Sunday afternoons realize. And I think you have lived it, Jake. I mean, banging around on mini tours, winning on the Canadian tour, elevating to the Corn Ferry tour, and eventually to the top level. And there's no guarantees, man. It's a grind. Now that you've arrived there, has there been joy in the journey, would you say?
Yeah, somewhat. I think the grind is also like enjoyable in its own way. I think I've realized now more than anything that the money side of things is not the most important thing for me. I enjoy golf, I enjoy playing, I enjoy just kind of beating myself up and trying to find ways to get better. And the rise up through like the mini tours and all that stuff, like, yeah, it's not super fun, but at the same time, you're also kind of doing it with guys that you probably went to college with and you've known since junior golf. So there's fun in each stage, I would say. But yeah, when you're back down there after, when you go up and down, kind of like I have over a few years, it's not as enjoyable when you're playing with guys that are 22 and now you're 27, or you're 28 and they're 20. And it's like, okay, I should probably be doing a little bit better than I am.
You learn more about yourself during the valleys than the peaks along the way?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's one of those things where you kind of start to realize you're not as far off as you think you are, when you're not playing well. I know for me, usually when I'm ready to just be done playing golf, that's usually when I start playing pretty well the next week or two, because I put my head down, I really get to work, and you know give myself a little bit more credit when things start going well. But yeah, I think in those valleys, that's kind of where you learn a lot about how much grit you have in you.
Have you always been hard on yourself and had high expectations for yourself?
For sure. Yeah, that's a staple. I'm sure my mom would love if I was a little bit nicer. That's her constant text to me is be nice to my Jake. Um, but no, I think it's one of those sports too where you don't get to have you're not in a team or in that kind of team atmosphere where you have a coach that if you mess up, they grill you and you learn from it and you move on. If you want to, you can mess up all day long and be nice to yourself, and that works for some guys. For me, I felt like it allowed me to make more mistakes. So I'm not slamming my head against the wall or doing anything like that, but I just try to get it through my head that that's not okay, and we need to get better and move on to the next one.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know you're a passionate sports fan of team sports. Golf is a very different endeavor, right? In a team sport, the clutch athletes and performers want the ball in their hands, right? At crunch time. How does that correlate to golf, Jake, where essentially you've got the ball in your hands for 5 hours?
Yeah, that's kind of I think why I chose golf. I mean, it's funny. It doesn't fit, I would say, like my personality through and through. I think I've always been somebody who's very high energy and loves playing, soccer, baseball, basketball, anything where it's like kind of more of an effort sport. And golf's the exact opposite of that. But at the same time, I always found myself in those other sports where, in baseball, I want to be the guy pitching or I want to be the guy at the plate. Like I hate just sitting around doing nothing. Basketball, I always want to be the guy to take the last shot. So in golf, yeah, you get to experience that every day. And, you get all the credit and you get all the blame, and I kind of love that part of it. And I like, sure, you can try to blame it on certain things, whether it's conditions or something happened and this and that, whatever. But when it comes down to it, it's all on you, and I love that responsibility.
What other sports did you play as a kid, and when did you kind of catch the golf bug and turn your full attention to it?
I played everything until I was probably a sophomore in high school, end of my freshman year in high school, something like that. So I played on like two soccer teams. I played on a baseball team. I played on the high school basketball team, and then some other basketball stuff. And I'd say those are the three main ones I played, and gave it all up pretty much after my freshman year in high school. Just decided to go all in on golf. I started playing everything kind of around the same age. I started super young. My brother was 3 years older than me, so I started playing golf when I was like 3, and was playing in tournaments, I think, by the time I was like 6 years old. So I was golf was always what we did, but it just became a lot for my parents because we'd go play a golf tournament in the morning, and I'd have a baseball game at night, and we were driving all over doing all this crazy stuff. So it was kind of time to just focus on one thing and put all my chips in that basket.
Well, you certainly had a talent for it. You're a bit of a prodigy. You shot 58 at your home course once. You shot 61 in a U.S. Open local qualifying round while still in high school. Did you start to catch the attention of college recruiters at that point?
Yeah, definitely. I remember I won like a junior tournament in like kind of San Diego area that had a bunch of the good California kids playing, and I ended up winning, and it was crappy weather. And immediately after, Casey Martin sent me a letter from Oregon. I think it was when I was like a sophomore in high school, and I was like, oh man, it's a pretty big deal, I guess. So, and then in high school, they can send all the letters after a certain date to your high school. They can't send them directly to your house. So then my assistant principal came and gave me a big box with a bunch of letters in it, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool deal. So, I was too scared to leave home though, so I stayed in California and went to UCLA. But I appreciate all the other offers.
I know you did some competing against Patrick Cantlay in Southern California during your junior years. Did he have any input or influence on your decision to go to Westwood?
Yeah, he was kind of. I don't give him enough crap for that, to be honest with you, but he was one of the main reasons why I really wanted to go there. At the time he was number one amateur, I think, in the world, maybe number two, but he was a stud player. The team was going to be really, really good. I knew Jonathan Garrick, who was a good player, who was already committed to go there. Um, and I was playing in a junior tournament over the summer before I was going to commit. He was just like, dude, he's like, look at the team we have. He's like, we're going to be so good. You need to come here, this whole thing. So I ended up, you know, committing in October. And then by the end of that season, he was off and turned pro.
I'm wondering if it all feels a little bit surreal, Jake. I mean, or do you feel like comfortable in this moment and like this is where you were always destined to be?
I think a little bit of both. I think because it took as long as it did, it feels pretty normal. I've been at it for a long time. I think sometimes you get a lot of people who tell you like, oh, it's a no-brainer. I always knew you were going to, and this and that, whatever. And it's like, well, I wish you were with me and on the Corn Ferry Tour in 2020 when I was missing cuts by 10 shots. And, I was like, I'm sure you knew it then for sure. But I think for me, I'm pretty comfortable. I think the most important thing I've learned over the last few years is just being comfortable with who you are. And, I think if I was put out here 3 or 4 years ago, I don't know if I would have been ready. I think I would have been a little bit too concerned of what everybody else is thinking about me. And for me right now, I care too much about, how I'm playing to bother too much with anybody else.
Do you appreciate it more because it was harder to come by?
For sure. I definitely do. Even like, I know we talk about the financial side of things in golf a lot these days with purse sizes and all that kind of stuff. But, being able to do what I love day in, day out, and, not having to stress about a utility bill or how much this and that is each month is pretty nice. So, yeah, I appreciate it. And I think back and put it in perspective to, where I was even 2 years ago. I was on the Canadian tour. So I'm very, very thankful where I am now.
You had a run around the time you were winning in Mexico that also featured a third place finish at the Farmers at Torrey Pines, fourth the week after winning at the Cognizant when you played with Brory, and he was highly complimentary of your game. Do you feel like you are getting closer to finding that form again here late in the season as you make a push for the playoffs here, Jake?
Yeah, I do. Even though the results haven't shown it necessarily, I feel like since Wells Fargo, I finally started to drive the ball a lot better and overall hit it a lot better. The PGA, I feel like I was kind of unlucky with the way we played in a lot of rain. But felt like I drove it super well that week and kind of had an odd putting day for one of the days. And but yeah, every event since then, I feel like I just haven't gotten it to all be full circle just yet, but it's starting to move in the right direction, and kind of gained a lot more confidence in myself again, which has been nice. And yeah, I think the other thing too is I went and I kind of got thrown straight into the fire. Arnold Palmer and players and all this stuff that are very difficult golf courses on not a lot of sleep. So um, that was, I think, a little bit harder on myself than I gave credit. The majors are hard. The elevated events, the rough's longer. They're tighter fairways. Everything about it's more difficult, and it's also the first time I've been on any of those courses. You're trying to learn it the best you can in day and a half, 2 days. So it's all been a bit of a learning experience. And I'm not somebody who likes to just kind of chalk it up as a learning experience. I want to play well and I want to perform. I have a pretty set schedule on what I'm doing going forward, and I feel good about the direction I'm going.
So, brand new uniforms for your beloved Anaheim Ducks, with whom you have a partnership, but kind of an old school logo that's going to be unveiled next year. What do we think?
Yeah, I love it. Talking to Aaron and Merritt about it, and we were talking about, he was like, by the way, he's like, we're kind of doing a little rebranding going towards the, end of your season and whatnot. And I was like, oh, okay, like sounds good. This should be exciting. And I didn't really expect this. I mean, he hinted that it was going to be more of the retro look and whatnot, and I think it's awesome. It's such an iconic logo, and I think people love it, and I think it's a good fit for the team. It's a good fit for Orange County, and I'm stoked to see it flying a lot of orange next year. That's for sure.
And people can get a little glimpse of the new uni on Jake Knapp's Instagram account. He's at naptime_LTD. That's how you follow him on Twitter as well. And LTD is the ethos for his life. He is living the dream, and he's part of this week's field at the John Deere Classic. Jake, I enjoyed the conversation, man. Good to catch up with you. You go well this week.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.